recently the leftist YouTuber, the Kavernacle, did a good video on the rise of the far right within Ukraine, how people within the American far right have been often joining directly this war that the far right Ukrainian government has been waging against Russia in partnership with NATO. He discussed the discriminatory policies, the genocidal actions that have been carried out with the complicity, at the very least, of Ukraine's government since the coming to power of that government in 2014. And he's discussed how NATO's interests align with the interests of this essentially neo-Nazi regime that's existed within this country these last 7 years or so, because NATO's goal is to wage war against Russia to weaken the Russian Federation, and therefore it's been incentivized to help this horrifying government that directly enables a series of Nazi militias that have been persecuting LGBT people, Romanis, Jews, communists, etc., with the goal of cementing fascism and a paradigm of war. Kavernacle again does a good job at covering this. He explores how the interests of U.S. NATO imperialism align with this odious regime, but I want to expand on his analysis. You can see his analysis, by the way, by clicking on it in the description of this video, where I'll put the link. I want to expand on his analysis by really going into exactly how this regime came to power. And I think this is my role as somebody who lives in the country, the United States, whose current president is actually one of the people who was directly involved in getting this fascist regime into power in 2014, because the Kavernacle, he's British. So that's understandable why he didn't talk about this. Anyway, I want to read you guys a story written by Eric Zuis, Story Time. This article from 2018 by journalist Eric Zuis, who wrote, "Clearly, Victoria Nuland, U.S. President Barack Obama's central agent overseeing the coup in Ukraine, at least during the month of February 2014 when it climaxed, was crucial not only in overthrowing the existing Ukrainian government, but in selecting and installing its rabidly anti-Russian replacement. The 27 January 2014 phone conversation between her and America's ambassador in Ukraine, Jeffrey Payette, was a particularly seminal event, and it was uploaded to YouTube on 4 February 2014. I have discussed elsewhere that call and its significance. Nuland there and then abandoned the EU's hope for a still democratic but less corrupt future government for Ukraine, and Nuland famously said on that call, 'Fuck the EU,' and she instructed Payette to choose instead the rabidly anti-Russian and far-right Arseniy Yatsenyuk." I think that's how you pronounce it. That's my best guess. Anyway, Zuis continues, "This key event occurred 27 days before Ukraine's President Viktor Yanukovych was overthrown on February 20th, and 30 days before the new person to head Ukraine's government, Yatsenyuk, became officially appointed to rule the now clearly fascist country. He won that official designation on February 26th. However, this was only a formality. Obama's agent had already chosen him on January 27th. Zuis continues, "The second landmark item of evidence that it had been a coup and nothing at all democratic or a revolution was the 26th February 2014 phone conversation between the EU's Foreign Minister Catherine Ashton and her agent in Ukraine investigating whether the overthrow had been a revolution or instead a coup. He was Estonia's foreign minister, Urmas Paet, and he told her that he found that it had been a coup and that somebody from the new coalition had engineered it. But he didn't know whom that somebody was. Both Ashton and Paet were shocked at this finding, but they proceeded immediately to ignore that matter and to discuss only the prospects for Europe's investors in Ukraine to be able to get their money back. Their obsession was Ukraine's corruption. Ashton told Paet that she had herself told the Maidan demonstrators. The Maidan is the name of the movement that installed the Nazi government into Ukraine. She told the Maidan demonstrators, "You need to find ways in which you can establish a process that will have anti-corruption at its heart." So, though the EU was unhappy that this had been a coup, they were far more concerned to protect their investors. In any case, the EU clearly wasn't behind Ukraine's coup. Equally clearly, they didn't much care whether it was a coup or instead what the US government said, a revolution. So this is clear evidence that the Obama administration very deliberately installed the very furthest right individuals that it could possibly find into power amid the instability that had appeared within Ukraine. Elsewhere in this article, Zuis describes how a lot of this instability was, in fact, manufactured by bad actors who decided to incite violence, like actually fire into the demonstrators, the people who were demonstrating, to undermine perceived legitimacy of the existing government. And this is what Joe Biden helped carry out. I mean, it's not like he was the sole perpetrator, but it's also not like he was totally unaware as this situation was playing out. He's one of the coupists who carried out the installation of what's essentially a modern version of the Nazi Party into Ukraine, and that's since been carrying out ethnic cleansing against Russia's Russian-speaking people within Ukraine, as well as repeating Hitler's atrocity of trying to invade and conquer Russia. This is really, you could say, a repeat of what happened during World War II, where all of the imperialist powers conspired to help install Hitler into power. At least many actors within the imperialist power structure conspired to help the Nazis rise to power. All these U.S. capitalists like Henry Ford helped Hitler rise to power with the hope that they could use Nazi Germany to crush Russia, to crush the Soviet Union. And it wasn't until this blew up into something truly catastrophic that that these imperialists were at least partially willing to chip into the fight of defeating Hitler. It may be that history will need to repeat itself in that way before the imperialists decide that this new Nazi regime has to go.